Every human being carries with them a private world that unfolds each night behind closed eyes. No matter who you are, where you come from, or what you believe, you have lived through moments of wonder, fear, beauty, and confusion inside dreams. The dream state has fascinated thinkers across history because it feels both intimate and mysterious. A theater of the mind where logic bends, identities blur, and time loses its grip. For centuries, cultures have looked to dreams for guidance, treating them as windows into hidden truths. Ancient civilizations considered dreams messages from gods, ancestors, or cosmic forces. In modern times, science has reduced them to a byproduct of brain activity. Yet the sense that they mean something more has never fully disappeared. Dreams are not rare events. They are woven into the structure of human life. From childhood to old age, people spend years of their existence in these inner landscapes. They are filled with extraordinary possibilities. Walking through impossible cities, meeting lost loved ones, or experiencing alternate versions of yourself. In dreams, the rules of ordinary physics seem suspended, replaced by a fluid reality that reacts to thought, memory, and emotion. This quality has led many to wonder whether dreams are simply illusions or whether they reflect a deeper connection to the universe. Over the last century, with the rise of neuroscience and psychology, dreams have often been explained as neurological housekeeping, random bursts of electrical activity stitched into narratives by a restless brain. This explanation is tidy but not entirely satisfying. Too many people have reported dreams that seem prophetic, shared across individuals, or strangely more real than waking life. These experiences make us pause and reconsider. Are dreams purely chemical, or could they be gateways to something far larger? The emergence of quantum physics in the 20th century offered humanity a new framework for reality itself. Quantum mechanics introduced principles that shattered classical certainty. Particles existing in multiple states at once, instant connections across vast distances, and outcomes determined by observation itself. As strange as these ideas sounded, they were confirmed repeatedly in experiments, and so a new possibility emerged. If the foundations of reality behave in such bizarre ways, then perhaps our nightly journeys are not confined to the brain at all. This series will follow that possibility. Together, we will examine the science of dreaming, the gaps in conventional theories, the strange landscapes of quantum physics, and the intersection where they might meet. The central question guiding us is simple but profound. When we close our eyes and enter a dream, are we touching parallel realities? Could our dream selves be living in other branches of the cosmos, stitched together by the quantum fabric that underlies everything? To approach this mystery responsibly, we begin where most people's understanding of dreams starts: the experience itself. Before exploring theories of quantum fields and multiverses, we must first ground ourselves in the phenomenon every human knows firsthand. That takes us into the first chapter, where we explore what makes dreams so compelling and why they remain one of the greatest puzzles linking science, philosophy, and the human imagination. Dreams are among the most universal of human experiences. They arrive uninvited, slipping into the quiet of sleep, offering images and sensations so vivid that the boundary between imagination and reality becomes blurred. Unlike waking experiences, dreams are not tethered by the ordinary logic of the physical world. A familiar street may stretch into infinity. A stranger may speak with the voice of someone you love, or you might find yourself in two places at once. These impossibilities feel natural while they are happening, only revealing their strangeness upon waking. This is part of what makes dreams so enigmatic. They mimic reality convincingly, while also exposing the fragility of what we call real. Philosophers across centuries have struggled to define the nature of dreams. Plato suggested that dreams reveal truths hidden beneath the surface of waking life, while Aristotle described them as echoes of perception and memory. In Chinese philosophy, the Taoist thinker Zhuangzi famously asked whether he was a man who had dreamt of being a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming of being a man. Such reflections reveal how dreams destabilize our certainty about identity and existence. If experience itself can be duplicated or simulated so convincingly in sleep, then what separates waking life from the dream state? In modern times, psychology entered the debate. Sigmund Freud viewed dreams as pathways into the unconscious, expressions of repressed desires and fears. Carl Jung expanded the idea, seeing them as a collective language of archetypes shared by all humanity. Even though their interpretations were contested, both Freud and Jung recognized that dreams are more than random noise. They seem to point toward a hidden structure of the mind, one that reveals itself most clearly in the liminal space of sleep. But beyond philosophy and psychology lies an even deeper puzzle. Why do dreams feel so real? During a vivid dream, the mind is convinced that the events are happening in real time, with emotions and sensations as intense as those of waking life. The colors are rich, the physical sensations can be sharp, and the emotional responses can linger for days. Some dreams leave an imprint so powerful that they alter the course of a person's decisions, creativity, or spiritual beliefs. This level of realism raises questions about whether dreams are fabricated simulations or something closer to lived realities in their own right. Stories of dreams influencing waking life abound. Countless works of art, scientific insights, and cultural revolutions trace their origins to dream experiences. Paul McCartney claimed to have composed the melody for Yesterday after hearing it in a dream. The chemist Auguste Kekulé reported that his discovery of the benzene ring structure came from a dream of a serpent biting its tail. Entire mythologies and rituals across cultures have drawn from dream imagery, treating it as sacred communication. This persistent influence across history suggests that dreams occupy a far more significant role than the label of random brain activity would allow. The sheer universality of dreams is also striking. People from every culture, language, and era report them. The dream state does not discriminate between age, wealth, or background. It arrives each night, shaping experiences unique to the individual, yet oddly resonant across humanity. Recurring dream motifs: falling, flying, being chased, meeting the dead appear across continents and centuries, as if tapping into a shared human vocabulary. This global consistency adds weight to the idea that dreams may reflect something fundamental about existence itself, and yet science still struggles to provide a definitive answer. The dominant view in neuroscience holds that dreams are the byproduct of brain maintenance, neurons firing in chaotic patterns, memories consolidating, emotions processing. But this explanation leaves untouched the richness, coherence, and strangeness of dreams. Why do these electrical signals generate entire worlds with their own logic? Why do they sometimes contain information or symbolism that the dreamer could not consciously know? These questions keep the mystery alive, even in an age dominated by rational science. The possibility that dreams extend beyond the brain challenges the very boundaries of what we call reality. If dreams can simulate life so perfectly, and if they occasionally produce knowledge or experiences that defy ordinary explanation, then perhaps they hint at another layer of reality beneath our waking one. Could it be that when we dream, we are not merely imagining, but accessing something real, an alternate field of existence, where another version of ourselves lives? This question is not idle speculation. It touches the core of human identity. If dreams are bridges to other realities, then the you who walks in those worlds is no less real than the you sitting awake in daylight. The mystery of dreams is not just about what happens in the brain during sleep. It is about whether consciousness itself is bound by one reality or stretches across many. That is where our exploration begins, by grounding ourselves in the mystery of dreams, how universal they are, how powerful they can be, and how poorly they fit into neat explanations. We set the stage for a deeper investigation. The chapters ahead will build on this foundation, moving step by step from what is familiar into the strange territory, where neuroscience meets quantum physics. To understand dreams from a scientific standpoint, we first need to explore the biological landscape in which they appear. Sleep is not a passive shutting down of the body. It is a highly organized and dynamic process that unfolds in distinct stages. These stages form repeating cycles throughout the night, and within them, the brain engages in activities that are crucial for survival, memory, and psychological balance. Dreams emerge from this structure, most vividly during a phase called REM, or rapid eye movement sleep, though they can appear in other stages as well. A typical night of rest is made up of 4 to 6 cycles, each lasting about 90 minutes. These cycles contain several phases: non-REM stages and the REM stage. Non-REM sleep is divided into 3 levels, progressing from light dozing to deep restorative rest. During the first stage, brainwaves begin to slow, and the boundary between wakefulness and sleep blurs. The second stage brings further disengagement from the environment, with slower heart rate, lower body temperature, and distinctive bursts of brain activity known as sleep spindles. The third stage, often called deep sleep or slow wave sleep, is characterized by delta brainwaves and is the period when the body repairs tissues, strengthens the immune system, and consolidates certain kinds of memory. After this descent into deep sleep, the cycle climbs back upward, eventually reaching REM. It is in REM sleep that the brain becomes extraordinarily active. Despite the body being immobilized through a mechanism known as atonia, which prevents us from acting out our dreams, the brain's electrical patterns resemble those of wakefulness. The eyes dart rapidly beneath closed lids, breathing becomes irregular, and the heart rate increases. Most of the dreams people recall upon waking come from this stage. From a neuroscientific perspective, dreams are often explained as the byproduct of the brain's attempt to interpret random neural firings during REM. According to the activation synthesis model proposed in the 1970s, the brainstem generates bursts of activity that ripple through the cortex. The mind, always striving for coherence, weaves these signals into narratives, stitching together memories, emotions, and images into a dream story. This theory views dreams as essentially meaningless, products of a brain sorting through noise. Yet other models give dreams a more functional role. Research suggests that dreaming contributes to memory consolidation, allowing experiences of the day to be integrated into long-term storage. For example, when people practice a new skill or navigate a maze, brain scans during sleep reveal patterns that replay the task, as if the brain were rehearsing and reinforcing learning. This idea has grown stronger with evidence from sleep deprivation studies, which show impaired memory and problem-solving ability when our REM sleep is interrupted. Dreams may also serve as an emotional regulator. Brain imaging has revealed that during REM sleep, the amygdala, a region central to processing emotions, is highly active. By re-experiencing difficult or intense feelings in the protected environment of a dream, the brain may be diffusing emotional charge and helping the sleeper adapt. This could explain why people often dream about recent stresses, traumas, or unresolved conflicts, and why nightmares can be so persistent. Another framework sees dreams as simulations for survival. From this perspective, dreams function as virtual environments, where the brain can rehearse responses to threats without real-world consequences. This evolutionary theory is supported by the frequency of dreams involving danger, pursuit, or conflict. By encountering challenges in a dream, early humans might have sharpened their reactions to predators or hostile encounters, with the rehearsal providing an adaptive edge. The scientific investigation of dreaming has advanced significantly thanks to tools like EEG, which records electrical activity in the brain, and fMRI, which maps blood flow in real time. These technologies reveal that dreams are not random hallucinations, but emerge from coordinated neural networks. The prefrontal cortex, which governs logic and self-awareness, tends to be less active during dreams, which may explain their illogical or surreal quality. Meanwhile, the visual and emotional centers are more active, which accounts for the vivid imagery and intense feelings often experienced. Despite these insights, the scientific story remains incomplete. Conventional explanations can account for some aspects of dreams but leave other features unresolved. For instance, while memory consolidation is a compelling idea, it does not explain why dreams often create elaborate scenarios far removed from real events. Emotional processing might clarify recurring nightmares, but it does not account for dreams that provide creative breakthroughs or information and the dreamer had no conscious access to. Survival rehearsal may illuminate certain themes, but it does not explain why people also dream of flying, talking to deceased relatives, or exploring worlds that have never existed. What science has established with confidence is that dreaming is not a trivial side effect. It is a recurring, structured, and energetically demanding process. The brain invests enormous resources into creating these nightly experiences, which suggests that dreams serve essential functions, even if we do not yet fully grasp them. The fact that REM sleep is conserved across mammals and even appears in birds points to its deep evolutionary roots. Nature rarely preserves processes that waste energy, especially in survival-driven organisms. This reinforces the idea that dreaming holds significance far beyond idle fantasy. For centuries, the scientific approach has leaned toward reductionism, breaking dreams down into neurons, neurotransmitters, and networks. This approach has yielded valuable knowledge, but it has also revealed its limits. Dreams remain stubbornly elusive, hinting at a complexity that resists full explanation within conventional neuroscience. Perhaps this is because dreams are not solely internal events. Perhaps they involve aspects of consciousness or reality that extend beyond the physical brain. The scientific groundwork is essential because it provides the baseline against which more radical ideas can be measured. Knowing how sleep cycles work, what brain regions activate, and what functions dreams may serve allows us to separate plausible hypotheses from pure speculation. But the gaps in this framework are just as important as the findings themselves. The cracks in the conventional model invite us to consider possibilities that reach beyond neuroscience, toward the strange and counterintuitive realm of quantum theory. By exploring the science of sleep and dreams, we gain both a map of the territory and a recognition of its boundaries. Those boundaries mark the starting point for deeper questions. Questions that challenge us to rethink the very nature of consciousness and reality. When scientists describe dreams strictly as neurological activity, the explanation works for many aspects of the experience. Sleep stages, memory processing, and emotional regulation fit into that model well. Yet the lived reality of dreaming often presents cases that slip out of its grasp. Across cultures and time, people have reported patterns in their dreams that seem to point towards something beyond chemical reactions and electrical impulses. These anomalies challenge the conventional story and suggest that there is more to explore. One of the most striking anomalies is lucid dreaming. In a lucid dream, the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming while the experience continues. Unlike ordinary dreams, which sweep us along as passive participants, lucid dreams allow the dreamer to recognize the unreality of the scene and even exert control over it. A person in this state may decide to fly, reshape the environment, or interact with characters deliberately. Neurological studies confirm that lucid dreaming corresponds to unusual patterns of brain activity, particularly in the prefrontal cortex, the region tied to self-awareness. What is remarkable is not just the altered brain function, but the quality of consciousness itself. Lucidity inside a dream resembles waking awareness, yet it emerges in a setting that should be governed by randomness. This blurring of states challenges the idea that dreams are only chaotic signals woven into meaningless stories. Recurring dreams form another category that unsettles conventional explanations. Many people report experiencing the same dream scenario repeatedly over months or years. These recurring dreams often involve similar settings, characters, or themes, such as being chased, facing an exam, or standing on a familiar cliff. While psychology might interpret these as unresolved anxieties or persistent thought patterns, some recurrences extend beyond simple emotional residue. Individuals sometimes describe dream worlds that feel consistent across years, almost like visiting the same alternate location each night. The level of continuity and detail raises the question of whether dreams can construct and maintain entire realities parallel to our waking one. Shared dreams present an even greater challenge. Accounts exist of two or more people reporting strikingly similar dream experiences, sometimes involving the same imagery, events, or even conversations. Skeptics may attribute this to coincidence or selective memory, but the phenomenon remains difficult to dismiss entirely. Documented cases where participants recorded their dreams independently, only to find uncanny overlaps, suggest that something unusual is happening. Shared dreaming raises the possibility that consciousness during sleep might not be sealed off within one brain, but could connect across individuals in ways science has not yet explained. Perhaps the most controversial anomaly is the phenomenon of precognitive dreams that appear to foretell future events. Throughout history, there are countless anecdotes of people dreaming about specific situations that later unfold in waking life. While chance, hindsight bias, or coincidence could account for some cases, certain reports are detailed enough to give pause. For example, individuals have described dreaming of accidents, natural disasters, or personal encounters with remarkable accuracy. Mainstream science has largely avoided this area due to its association with the paranormal. Yet the persistence of these reports across cultures suggests the need for more careful consideration. If even a small fraction of such cases are genuine, then our understanding of time, memory, and the boundaries of consciousness would need to be re-evaluated. Nightmares themselves hold mysteries. While conventional science attributes them to stress or trauma, the intensity and recurrence of some nightmares defy simple explanation. Soldiers suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, for instance, often relive battlefield experiences in dreams with such vividness that the body responds physiologically, as though the event were happening again. This level of immersion implies that the dream state is not a mere echo, but a full simulation capable of triggering real bodily reactions. If a dream can activate the body as if it were awake, then the line between dream and reality becomes even thinner. There is also the question of creativity and problem-solving in dreams. While neuroscience can describe how the brain consolidates memory, it does not fully explain how new ideas emerge during sleep. History provides striking examples. The mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan claimed that complex equations came to him in dreams, while the scientist Otto Lowy dreamed of the experiment that proved chemical transmission between nerve cells. These breakthroughs were not simple replays of past experiences, but novel insights that changed entire fields. Dreams as engines of discovery suggest that they tap into processes of thought and perception that transcend everyday cognition. Even the sheer vividness of dreams poses questions. Some people describe dream experiences with sensory richness equal to or greater than waking life. Colors appear brighter, sounds sharper, and emotions more overwhelming. If dreams are mere byproducts of random neural activity, why would they generate realities that feel so complete? The brain seems capable of producing fully immersive environments on demand, which raises the question of whether it is simulating worlds internally or connecting to something external. These cracks in the conventional model do not invalidate neuroscience, but they reveal its limits. Lucid dreams show that awareness can arise where it should not. Recurring dreams suggest continuity across time. Shared dreams hint at a collective or interconnected aspect of consciousness. Precognitive dreams challenge our assumptions about time and causality. Creative breakthroughs imply access to forms of knowledge outside ordinary experience. Together, these anomalies form a pattern. Dreaming may involve more than the random byproducts of a sleeping brain. It is within these anomalies that the conversation naturally turns toward quantum theory. Quantum mechanics, with its emphasis on probabilities, entanglement, and non-local effects, provides a framework that at least gestures toward explanations for phenomena that standard neuroscience struggles with. If consciousness is linked in some way to quantum processes, then the dream state could be a gateway where those processes become most visible. By focusing on what does not fit into the conventional narrative, we open the door to a wider view. These anomalies remind us that dreams remain a profound mystery. They invite us to look beyond reductionist models and to ask whether the dream world is not only a construction of the brain, but also a meeting place with other dimensions of reality, to understand how dreams might connect with realities beyond our own. It is essential to step into the strange landscape of quantum physics. Unlike classical physics, which explains the predictable motion of planets, falling objects, and machines, quantum mechanics operates in a realm where certainty collapses into probabilities. It is the science of the very small governing particles like electrons, photons, and atoms. Yet, despite its focus on the microscopic, its principles underpin the entire structure of the universe. By exploring its foundations, superposition, entanglement, uncertainty, and the observer effect, we begin to see how this science could intersect with the mysteries of the human mind. At the heart of quantum physics lies the principle of superposition. In classical thinking, an object must exist in one state or another. A coin is either heads or tails. A light is either on or off. Quantum particles do not obey this rule. They can occupy multiple states at the same time, existing in overlapping possibilities until a measurement forces them to resolve into one outcome. This concept is famously illustrated by Schrödinger's thought experiment, in which a cat inside a sealed box is simultaneously alive and dead, until someone opens the box to check. Superposition demonstrates that the universe at its deepest level does not function in absolutes, but in probabilities that remain unresolved until observed. Equally baffling is the phenomenon of entanglement. When two particles interact in certain ways, they become linked such that the state of one instantly affects the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are separated. If one particle is measured and found to spin up, its entangled partner will immediately be found spinning down, even if it resides on the opposite side of the galaxy. This defies classical ideas of distance and communication, suggesting that reality allows for connections beyond space and time. Albert Einstein, who struggled with the implications, dismissed it as spooky action at a distance, yet repeated experiments have proven entanglement real. It reveals that the universe is far more interconnected than our everyday senses suggest. Then, there is the uncertainty principle, proposed by Werner Heisenberg. It states that certain pairs of properties, such as a particle's position and momentum, cannot both be precisely known at the same time. The more accurately we measure one, the less certain we become about the other. This is not a flaw of instruments, but a fundamental property of nature. Reality itself resists being nailed down to definitive values. Instead of solid objects moving through predictable paths, quantum physics paints a picture of a fluid universe, where precision dissolves into clouds of possibility. Perhaps the most philosophically unsettling feature of quantum mechanics is the observer effect. In the famous double-slit experiment, particles such as electrons are fired at a barrier with two openings. When no one measures their path, the particles behave like waves, creating an interference pattern on the screen behind the slits. But when detectors are placed to observe which slit the particle passes through, the wave behavior collapses, and the particles act like solid points, forming two bands. The act of measurement changes the outcome. Observation appears to collapse the spread of probabilities into a single realized state. This suggests that consciousness, or at least the act of observing, plays a fundamental role in shaping physical reality. Together, these principles reveal a universe unlike anything envisioned before the 20th century. Superposition shows that objects exist in multiple states simultaneously. Entanglement demonstrates that separations in space may be illusions, with particles connected across vast distances. Uncertainty tells us that the universe is built from probabilities, not certainties. The observer effect hints that consciousness and reality may be intertwined in profound ways. These concepts are not abstract curiosities. They underpin technologies we use every day. Quantum mechanics makes possible the semiconductors in computers, the lasers in communication systems, and the principles guiding magnetic resonance imaging in hospitals. Quantum theory has been tested with extraordinary precision, and its predictions have held true again and again. Yet, even with its practical successes, the philosophical implications remain staggering. What does it mean that the universe, at its foundation, does not obey deterministic laws, but operates in a haze of probabilities that resolve only through observation? For our exploration of dreams, these principles are not just scientific facts, but keys to new perspectives. If particles can exist in multiple states at once, might consciousness also explore multiple realities simultaneously? If entanglement binds particles across space, could it explain why two dreamers might share experiences that appear linked? If uncertainty defines the structure of reality, could dreams be glimpses of alternative outcomes woven into the probabilities of our lives? And if observation collapses quantum states, might our attention in dreams play a role in shaping the landscapes we encounter there? Quantum mechanics does not provide answers to these questions directly, but it lays a foundation. It reminds us that reality is not as solid, local, or linear as our waking experience suggests. The dream state, with its fluidity, unpredictability, and interconnectedness, mirrors the qualities of the quantum world more closely than the orderly rhythms of everyday life. Perhaps this resemblance is not coincidence. Perhaps the dream state is where consciousness interacts most openly with the quantum fabric of the cosmos. By grounding ourselves in these basics, we have prepared the terrain for a deeper inquiry. With this understanding of quantum mechanics, we can begin to explore how its principles might intersect with the mysteries of dreams and the possibility that every night we are stepping into alternate versions of reality. When physicist Hugh Everett first introduced the many worlds interpretation in the 1950s, it sounded like science fiction. At the time, quantum mechanics had already unsettled scientists by showing that particles could exist in multiple possible states until observed. The puzzle was this: what exactly happens to those other possible outcomes that seem to vanish once a measurement is made? Traditional explanations suggested that probabilities collapse into a single result when observed. Everett proposed something far more radical. He argued that the wave of possibilities does not collapse at all. Instead, every potential outcome of a quantum event actually happens, just not in the same universe. In Everett's vision, reality is not singular, but constantly branching. Each time a quantum choice is made, the universe splits into multiple versions. Imagine flipping a coin. In one branch of reality, the coin lands heads. In another, it lands tails. Both outcomes are real, but they unfold in separate, parallel universes. This is not limited to trivial events. Every interaction of particles, every decision, every fork in the road creates new branches of existence, expanding the multiverse endlessly. This interpretation redefines the very nature of existence. Instead of one unfolding story, reality becomes a vast tree with infinite branches, each representing a different version of events. You, as a conscious being, are not confined to a single line of outcomes. Instead, countless versions of you exist simultaneously, each experiencing a slightly different or sometimes drastically different life. In one universe, you may have taken a different job, moved to another city, or spoken a word that changed the course of your future. In another, you might not even exist at all. What makes Everett's idea so powerful is that it takes quantum mechanics seriously, without trying to force probabilities into collapsing. Instead of assuming that unobserved possibilities disappear, he suggested they continue on their own trajectories. This elegantly removes the mystery of why observation seems to influence outcomes. If every outcome is realized in some branch, then nothing truly vanishes. What we call observation is simply our consciousness becoming aware of which branch we are on. At first, the scientific community largely dismissed Everett's idea. It seemed extravagant, even absurd, to suggest that the universe is endlessly splitting into parallel versions of itself. Yet over time, the many worlds interpretation has gained traction. Part of its appeal lies in its simplicity. It requires no special collapse mechanism or hidden variables. Instead, it accepts the mathematics of quantum mechanics at face value. The equations suggest multiple outcomes, so Everett concluded that multiple outcomes must exist. For our exploration of dreams, the many worlds interpretation offers an intriguing framework. If every possible version of events exists somewhere in the multiverse, then perhaps the mind, during sleep, is not limited to experiencing only the branch we inhabit while awake. Dreams may serve as a window, however fleeting, into those other realities. The bizarre landscapes, strange encounters, and uncanny shifts in logic we experience at night might reflect glimpses of worlds where different choices, different histories, or different laws of physics unfold. Consider the sensation of meeting someone in a dream who feels familiar yet different, as if they belong to another version of your life, or the recurring experience of visiting a place that does not exist in waking life but feels deeply known. These could be interpreted as the mind brushing against parallel branches of reality. In the multiverse, there may exist versions of you who live in those cities, know those people, or walk through those landscapes. Dreaming could be the moment when consciousness, unbound from the constraints of waking perception, drifts into resonance with those alternate selves. The many worlds interpretation also helps frame the odd continuity of recurring dreams. If dreams sometimes reflect alternate realities, then returning to the same dream setting might not be a quirk of memory, but evidence of revisiting the same parallel branch. Instead of inventing new experiences each night, the dreaming mind might repeatedly connect to specific alternate worlds, building familiarity with them over time. This perspective challenges us to rethink what it means to dream, rather than random images stitched together by a resting brain. Dreams may be exploratory journeys through the quantum landscape of possibilities. If every choice generates new branches, then every dream could be an encounter with one of those countless versions of existence. The mind, in its nightly wanderings, may act as a traveler across the multiverse, sampling realities we cannot access when fully awake. Of course, mainstream science does not claim that dreams are evidence of parallel universes. The many worlds interpretation itself remains a subject of debate, yet it resonates because it provides a coherent, if extraordinary way of understanding quantum mechanics without contradictions. It also dovetails naturally with the mysteries of human consciousness, especially during the dream state, where perception loosens from the strict boundaries of waking reality. If Everett was right, then we inhabit not a single universe, but an infinite tapestry of realities. Every action, every chance event, every flicker of quantum possibility creates another thread. We perceive only one at a time, but the others continue, as real as the one we call our own. In this light, dreams may be far more than private illusions. They may be glimpses across the branches of the cosmic tree, allowing us to momentarily step into the lives of our other selves. For centuries, philosophers and scientists have wrestled with the nature of consciousness. What exactly is the inner experience of awareness, the sense of I that observes, thinks, and dreams? Traditional neuroscience explains consciousness as an emergent property of the brain's complex network of neurons, suggesting that it arises from the immense number of connections and interactions within grey matter. Yet this explanation leaves profound questions unanswered. Why does electrical activity in the brain feel like anything at all? How can matter give rise to subjective experience? This puzzle, often called the hard problem of consciousness, has inspired thinkers to search for new frameworks beyond conventional biology. One of the most daring approaches comes from physics. Several scientists, most prominently Sir Roger Penrose, a mathematical physicist, and Stuart Hameroff, an anesthesiologist, have argued that consciousness might be rooted in quantum processes rather than purely classical interactions of neurons. Their theory, known as orchestrated objective reduction or OR, proposes that quantum activity inside the brain plays a crucial role in generating conscious awareness. The key lies in structures called microtubules, tiny protein scaffolds that form the backbone of neurons. For decades, microtubules were thought to serve only structural and transport functions, guiding the movement of molecules within cells. Hameroff suggested they may have a deeper role. He proposed that microtubules could support quantum states' delicate superpositions of information that influence the functioning of the brain at a fundamental level. Penrose contributed a unique idea. He believed that quantum superpositions collapse not randomly, but in accordance with the very structure of space-time. If correct, this would mean consciousness emerges from the most basic fabric of the universe itself. According to OR, the brain is not simply a computational machine made of neurons firing signals like circuits in a computer. Instead, it operates more like a quantum orchestra, with microtubules sustaining delicate quantum states that combine, collapse, and evolve in orchestrated patterns. These orchestrations, they argue, are what give rise to the flow of conscious experience, the feeling of being present, of thinking, perceiving, and dreaming. This theory stands in sharp contrast to mainstream neuroscience, which views consciousness as nothing more than the byproduct of classical neural processing. Critics argue that the warm, wet, noisy environment of the brain is inhospitable to quantum effects, which are typically fragile and require isolation to persist. Yet in recent years, evidence from biology has revealed surprising quantum phenomena in living systems. For example, photosynthesis in plants relies on quantum coherence to transfer energy with remarkable efficiency. Birds appear to use quantum entanglement in their eyes to sense the Earth's magnetic field for navigation. These discoveries show that nature may have evolved ways to harness quantum mechanics even under biological conditions once thought impossible. If microtubules can indeed sustain quantum states, then the OR model gains plausibility. Consciousness, in this view, would not merely be a local product of brain tissue, but a phenomenon woven into the quantum foundation of the universe. This possibility offers an explanation for why consciousness feels so mysterious and irreducible. It may not arise solely from neurons, but from the deep rules of reality itself. For the question of dreams, such a theory becomes especially provocative. If consciousness is tied to quantum processes, then dreaming could represent a state where these quantum patterns shift into different modes, less constrained by the orderly logic of waking thought. In dreams, the mind might access patterns of quantum information that are normally filtered out, opening doorways to experiences outside the limits of linear perception. This could help explain why dreams often feel vivid, symbolic, and sometimes profoundly meaningful, as if they tap into layers of reality hidden during waking life. Penrose and Hameroff also suggested that Orkor connects the human mind to the fabric of the cosmos. Since the collapse of quantum superpositions may be tied to space-time itself, consciousness could be understood as a universal phenomenon, not limited to individual brains. Each conscious moment, in this view, is an event in which the mind resonates with the underlying quantum structure of the universe. Dreams, then, might represent not just random firings of neurons, but shifts in how consciousness interfaces with that deeper quantum field. This perspective also opens the door to intriguing interpretations of mystical and spiritual experiences. Traditions across cultures have long described dreams as journeys of the soul, visits to other realms, or encounters with higher truths. If consciousness truly has a quantum basis, these descriptions may not be purely metaphorical. Dreams could be moments when awareness transcends the narrow channel of waking perception and explores broader dimensions of reality. Of course, the Orkor theory remains controversial. Many scientists reject it as speculative, pointing out the lack of definitive evidence for sustained quantum coherence in the brain. Yet, the growing recognition that biology can exploit quantum effects makes the idea harder to dismiss. At the very least, Penrose and Hameroff have drawn attention to the possibility that consciousness cannot be fully explained by classical neuroscience alone. Their work has expanded the debate, forcing us to consider whether the mind is more deeply connected to the quantum world than we ever imagined. If consciousness is quantum in nature, then it is not simply confined to neurons or even to the human body. Instead, it may be part of a universal process that spans the cosmos. In this framework, dreams take on a new significance. They may be more than internal experiences generated by memory and emotion. They could be interactions between the human mind and the vast quantum field that underlies reality. Each dream might be a brush with other possible worlds, other timelines, or other dimensions of existence, reflecting the mind's quantum roots. When we consider the extraordinary capabilities of the human brain, it becomes clear that the conventional explanation of neurons firing electrical impulses may not tell the full story. The quantum brain hypothesis takes this further, suggesting that the mind may harness the strange laws of quantum physics to process information, perceive reality, and even connect to multiple dimensions of existence. At the center of this idea are microtubules, delicate protein filaments inside neurons that provide both structure and a potential medium for quantum computation. Microtubules are not mere scaffolding. They are highly ordered lattices capable of interacting with energy and signals in ways that classical biology cannot fully explain. Within their intricate arrangements, some scientists argue, quantum states may form and persist. These states involve particles existing in superposition, allowing information to be stored and processed in multiple forms simultaneously. If microtubules can support this, the brain would operate on a quantum level, vastly expanding its capacity to handle complex patterns of thought, memory, and imagination. Critics long argued that the brain's environment, warm, wet, and electrically noisy, would destroy fragile quantum states almost instantly. Yet discoveries across biology challenge this assumption. In photosynthesis, for example, plants use quantum coherence to guide light energy efficiently through molecular networks. This means particles of energy effectively travel along multiple paths at once until the most efficient one is realized. Birds appear to navigate Earth's magnetic field by relying on entangled particles within their visual systems, sensing directions no compass could reveal. If plants and animals can sustain quantum coherence for survival, Why should the human brain not have evolved similar mechanisms, especially for something as vital as consciousness? The quantum brain hypothesis proposes that microtubules function as tiny quantum computers embedded within each neuron, instead of relying only on classical firing rates of nerve signals. These microtubules could perform quantum calculations that integrate vast amounts of information in ways traditional neuroscience can't account for. This would explain the richness of human awareness, the speed of intuition, and the fluid, non-linear qualities of dreaming. Dreams provide a particularly compelling context for this hypothesis. During waking life, the brain maintains a relatively stable perception of reality, filtering out contradictions and focusing on coherent sensory input. But in dreams, the mind is freed from those constraints. If microtubules indeed support quantum states, then dreams may represent periods when the brain is less tightly bound to classical processing and more open to the influence of quantum coherence. This could allow consciousness to access overlapping realities, weaving together images, sensations, and experiences that feel unearthly yet deeply personal. The ability of the brain to act as a quantum system also raises the possibility that it is sensitive to information beyond the boundaries of the single universe we perceive in waking life. If quantum processes allow entanglement and superposition to extend across dimensions, then perhaps our minds, through their quantum architecture, resonate with multiple realities at once. Dreams might be moments when those resonances become vivid enough to experience consciously, giving us glimpses of alternate selves and parallel worlds. Support for the quantum brain hypothesis is not confined to theoretical speculation. Advances in neuroscience have revealed that microtubules play roles in memory storage, cellular signaling, and even the regulation of neural activity at scales that suggest computational sophistication. Research into anesthetics, which act directly on microtubules, further suggests that these structures are integral to consciousness itself. The ability of anesthetics to switch off awareness by targeting microtubules aligns with the idea that quantum activity within them forms the basis of our conscious experience. If the brain truly functions as a quantum system, then consciousness is not limited by classical biology. Instead, it is linked to the quantum fabric of the universe, where possibilities extend far beyond what traditional models predict. Dreams, under this interpretation, become natural arenas for exploring those possibilities. They are not chaotic byproducts of memory, but explorations of reality's deeper layers, mediated by the brain's quantum architecture. The implications are profound. If the mind operates on quantum principles, then our thoughts, choices, and perceptions may not be confined to one version of reality. Instead, they could participate in the branching universes described by the many worlds interpretation, allowing us to experience fragments of those alternate lives in dreams. The quantum brain hypothesis thus provides not only a framework for understanding consciousness, but also a possible bridge between neuroscience, quantum physics, and the enigmatic realm of dreaming. By viewing the brain as a quantum system, we gain a new perspective on why dreams feel both alien and familiar, both personal and universal. They may be the echoes of consciousness interacting with realities that classical models cannot touch. In this way, the quantum brain hypothesis transforms the act of dreaming from a biological oddity into a potential gateway to the multiverse itself. When the brain descends into sleep, it moves through cycles that alternate between deep rest and bursts of vivid inner activity. The most striking of these stages is rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, when dreams become immersive and emotionally charged. During this phase, neural activity resembles waking states, yet the body is paralyzed to prevent us from acting out what unfolds in the mind. Conventional neuroscience interprets REM as a period of memory processing and emotional regulation, but when examined through the lens of quantum theory, REM sleep may be more than a biological housekeeping function. It may represent the brain slipping into conditions where quantum processes thrive, allowing consciousness to act as a window onto parallel realities. The logic behind this proposal begins with the unique characteristics of REM sleep. Unlike deep, slow-wave sleep, REM is marked by rapid oscillations, bursts of brain activity, and an unusual neurochemical balance. Neurotransmitters like serotonin and norepinephrine are suppressed, while acetylcholine levels surge, creating a state where sensory input from the outside world is muted and inner imagery dominates. This sensory isolation, coupled with heightened neural firing, could provide fertile ground for quantum states to emerge within the brain's microstructures, freed from the continuous correction imposed by external stimuli. The brain in REM might resonate more deeply with the underlying quantum fabric of reality. Quantum processes, by their very nature, are delicate. They require conditions where coherence can be maintained long enough to influence outcomes. The chaos of waking life with constant sensory bombardment and rapid decision-making may limit the brain's ability to sustain quantum coherence. Dreams, however, unfold in a protected environment. The body is immobile, sensory channels are subdued, and the mind operates without immediate physical demands. In this sheltered state, quantum coherence within microtubules or other neural substrates may be prolonged, enabling consciousness to interact with patterns of possibility beyond the classical world. If this is the case, REM sleep could act like a tuning mechanism. Just as a radio aligns with specific frequencies to reveal hidden signals, the dreaming brain might align with quantum states that correspond to alternate realities. Each dream scenario, no matter how surreal or fragmented, could represent the mind briefly accessing one of countless branches of the multiverse. The strange fluidity of dream logic, where impossible transitions feel natural, mirrors the probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics. Dreams do not follow the rigid laws of classical causality, because they may not be confined to a single universe's rules. This interpretation helps make sense of the profound realism often reported in dreams. People frequently wake with the feeling that what they experienced was not imagined but lived, even when the content defies waking reality. If dreams are windows onto parallel worlds, this realism would not be illusory. It would reflect genuine experiences of consciousness entering different versions of existence. For instance, a dream of being in a familiar home that does not exist in waking life may correspond to a branch of reality where such a home was built. Encounters with people who feel deeply known but do not exist here could reflect interactions with counterparts of ourselves or others in alternate universes. The notion of REM as a quantum window also reframes shared and precognitive dreams. If consciousness during sleep can resonate with quantum information beyond the boundaries of our world, then it may sometimes overlap with the consciousness of others, producing shared dream experiences. Similarly, if the quantum field contains information about multiple timelines, dreams might occasionally access future states, appearing prophetic when compared with later events. Skeptics may argue that these phenomena are rare and anecdotal. Yet even within conventional science, dreams resist complete explanation. Why do some dreams feel trivial, while others carry intense symbolic weight? Why do recurring dreamscapes arise with consistency over years, as if anchored to realities outside memory? The quantum perspective offers a framework where these anomalies are not dismissed but integrated into a larger understanding of consciousness. The REM state becomes especially compelling when considered alongside the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. If every quantum event creates new branches of reality, then REM dreams could represent consciousness slipping into awareness of those branches. Each night, as the brain cycles through REM, it may function as a traveler across probabilities, observing fragments of other worlds before returning to the stability of waking life. In this view, dreaming is not a passive replay of waking experience, but an active exploration of the quantum landscape. The vividness, the strangeness, the deep sense of presence, all become signatures of consciousness engaging with realities that extend beyond our waking perceptions. REM, then, is not merely a stage of sleep. It is the gateway through which the human mind peers into the multiverse, sampling the possibilities that quantum mechanics insists must exist. By uniting neuroscience with quantum theory, we arrive at a picture of dreams that is richer and more profound than either discipline alone provides. The brain is not just consolidating memories, it is tuning into the hidden architecture of reality, using the quiet and isolation of REM sleep to sustain quantum states that open windows onto parallel worlds. Each dream becomes an act of perception, a glimpse of existence beyond the boundaries of our single universe. Each night, as the mind enters the world of dreams, there is a striking sense that what unfolds is not simply invention. It feels immersive, real, and at times indistinguishable from waking life. This raises a provocative possibility. What if each dream is not a product of imagination alone, but a temporary immersion into an alternate version of reality? In such a view, dreams become more than fragmented stories. They transform into experiences of another self, living out a different path in another branch of existence. The idea of parallel realities is rooted in quantum mechanics, particularly in the concept that every choice or quantum event can split reality into divergent outcomes. If existence is constantly branching, then there may be countless versions of ourselves navigating their own unique worlds. Dreams could serve as the bridge, allowing consciousness to briefly step into the perspective of these parallel selves. What seems like a random sequence of events in a dream could, in fact, be the lived experience of another version of us, one whose life followed a different chain of decisions and consequences. Consider the way dreamscapes often present familiar places that are altered in subtle ways. A street may look like the one you grew up on, yet the houses are rearranged or the skyline feels unfamiliar. Conventional explanations attribute this to memory blending, but through the lens of parallel realities, these environments may be glimpses of worlds where development unfolded differently. Likewise, recurring dream figures, friends, family, or strangers who feel uncannily real could be encounters with individuals who exist in those parallel branches. They are not invented by the mind, but remembered from experiences lived by another version of you. This framework also sheds light on the deep emotional resonance of many dreams. People often wake from dream encounters feeling profound love, loss, or fear, as if the events truly mattered. If dreams were mere illusions, why would they carry such intensity? If they are windows into parallel lives, the emotions make sense. Consciousness does not distinguish between branches. The connections we feel are authentic because they are grounded in real experiences, even if they belong to another version of reality. Lucid dreams further strengthen this perspective. When a person becomes aware within a dream and begins to exert control, it mirrors the quantum principle of the observer effect. Just as observation can collapse a wave function into a specific outcome, conscious awareness in a dream may focus attention on a particular branch of reality. Lucid dreamers often describe the environment stabilizing and becoming more vivid once they realize they are dreaming. This stabilization could be the mind locking onto a specific quantum state, temporarily grounding the dreamer in that parallel world with heightened clarity. What is especially intriguing is the possibility that these dream experiences are not isolated. If every dream reflects a parallel branch, then each night's journey expands the totality of what it means to be you. Your waking self lives one thread of reality, but your dreaming self momentarily steps into others, experiencing different careers, relationships, or even worlds that diverged in ways too subtle to notice. Dreams, in this sense, are a nightly reminder that our identity is not confined to a single timeline. We are multidimensional beings, tied to countless variations of ourselves spread across the fabric of existence. This theory also reinterprets so-called nightmare experiences. Instead of dismissing them as random anxiety projections, they may represent glimpses into branches where events unfolded tragically. The terror of being pursued, trapped, or harmed could reflect genuine dangers faced by alternate selves. While unsettling, such dreams might function as a warning system, allowing the conscious mind to process risks from other timelines and integrate them into our decision-making here. Parallel dreamscapes might also explain the phenomenon of déjà vu. Many people report the uncanny sense of having lived a moment before, though no rational explanation fits. If dreams allow consciousness to inhabit alternate branches, then déjà vu may occur when waking life briefly overlaps with experiences already lived in another reality, glimpsed during sleep. The familiarity is not imagined but remembered across timelines. The implications of this idea stretch beyond personal experience. If dreams are windows into parallel realities, they could represent a natural form of multiverse exploration. Instead of requiring advanced technology or theoretical machines to traverse realities, the human mind may already possess the capacity to shift perspectives. Sleep becomes not only a biological necessity, but a cosmic journey where each individual acts as an explorer of existence itself. The richness of dreamscapes, their vast cities, endless landscapes, and complex societies adds further weight to this view. It is striking that the dreaming mind can generate entire worlds that feel consistent and detailed, but perhaps it is not generating them at all. Perhaps it is perceiving them, just as our senses perceive the waking world. The scale and depth of dream environments may reflect the vastness of the parallel universes they reveal. By interpreting dreams as immersion into alternate versions of reality, we open a radically new way of understanding the human experience. Dreams are not trivial, nor are they chaotic misfires of neurons. They are portals into the multiverse, where each of us lives countless lives beyond the narrow track of waking awareness. The self we know is only one fragment of a larger identity stretched across infinite possibilities. Lucid dreaming represents one of the most fascinating frontiers of human consciousness. Unlike ordinary dreaming, where events unfold without our deliberate control, lucidity allows the dreamer to recognize they are inside a dream and influence what happens. This phenomenon blurs the line between unconscious experience and conscious participation, making it a compelling subject for anyone exploring the connection between dreams and parallel realities. When examined through the framework of quantum mechanics, lucid dreams take on a profound significance, hinting that moments of awareness in dreams may mirror the observer effect at the quantum level. In physics, the observer effect describes how the mere act of observation can influence the outcome of a quantum event. A particle in superposition exists in multiple states until it is measured, at which point one state crystallizes into reality. Lucid dreaming appears to function in an eerily similar way. The moment a person becomes aware that they are dreaming, the dream environment often stabilizes, grows more vivid, and responds with greater consistency. Instead of drifting through fragmented or chaotic scenes, the dreamer finds themselves in a coherent, tangible world, almost as if their consciousness has collapsed the uncertainty into a stable quantum branch. This stabilization effect raises important questions about the nature of awareness itself. Why should self-recognition within a dream change the dream's texture so dramatically? From a conventional perspective, lucidity is explained as the brain's frontal lobes reactivating during REM sleep, granting higher-order awareness. But from a quantum viewpoint, lucidity might mark the moment consciousness exerts influence over which version of reality is being experienced. The act of knowing you are dreaming may be equivalent to observing a quantum system and fixing its outcome. Many lucid dreamers report that once they gain awareness, the dream world feels more real than waking life. Colors appear more vibrant, textures are more detailed, and even the air feels charged with vitality. Such descriptions are difficult to reconcile with the idea that dreams are just random brain activity. They suggest that lucidity might involve tapping into deeper levels of reality, where consciousness is not merely imagining, but perceiving alternate states of existence. In other words, becoming lucid may allow the dreamer to consciously navigate parallel realities instead of drifting unconsciously through them. This interpretation aligns with reports of dreamers meeting figures who seem autonomous, displaying knowledge or behavior the dreamer could not have invented. Some lucid dreamers engage in conversations with these entities and are surprised by their complexity. If dreams are simply internal constructs, how can independent dialogue emerge? If, however, lucidity grants access to parallel worlds, then these entities could be genuine beings in those branches, encountered by the dreamer while temporarily inhabiting that reality. Lucid dreaming also provides a framework for testing the limits of human perception. Dreamers have experimented with manipulating environments, summoning objects, or even attempting to view information unknown to them in waking life. While many of these attempts are playful, they highlight the possibility that lucidity is not just a psychological trick, but a form of conscious interaction with the multiverse. If awareness determines reality at the quantum level, then a lucid dreamer may be exercising that same principle on the stage of their nightly experience, shaping which timeline they access and what events unfold. The parallels between lucid dreaming and quantum mechanics become especially intriguing when considering continuity of identity. In waking life, we assume a single, linear self, but lucidity suggests that identity can extend across multiple dimensions. The dreamer does not merely observe another reality, they participate, exert will, and make choices. If those choices belong to another version of self in a parallel branch, then lucidity becomes a point of overlap, where two strands of existence merge in conscious recognition. It is as though awareness forms a bridge across the multiverse, temporarily uniting divergent realities. Skeptics may argue that lucid dreaming is nothing more than the brain exercising imagination while asleep. Yet such skepticism struggles to explain the sheer intensity and coherence of lucid experiences. Imagination in waking life rarely achieves the same immersive realism. We cannot, while daydreaming, summon worlds with the vividness and depth that lucidity provides. Something about the dreaming state appears uniquely suited to hosting experiences indistinguishable from waking reality, and this distinction hints at an underlying mechanism beyond neural activity alone. If lucid dreaming is indeed a form of quantum awareness, it raises further questions about the potential of the human mind. Could lucidity be trained to reliably access specific realities? Could dreamers explore parallel branches intentionally, perhaps even seeking knowledge or insights unavailable in their waking world? This possibility transforms lucid dreaming from a curiosity into a potential tool for exploration. Much like telescopes extended human sight to the stars, lucidity could extend human consciousness across realities. Even more compelling is the notion that lucid dreaming might reveal the true nature of consciousness itself. If awareness can shift between worlds and stabilize them, then consciousness is not confined to the brain. Instead, it operates as a fundamental aspect of reality, interfacing with the quantum field directly. This perspective places human beings not as passive observers of existence, but as active participants in shaping the multiverse. Lucid dreaming, in this sense, is a glimpse of our deeper role in reality. By framing lucid dreaming as a form of quantum awareness, we begin to see how it connects with both neuroscience and physics. The brain may provide the biological platform, entering REM sleep and enabling altered states of consciousness, but the mind, when lucid, appears to transcend the brain's limits, engaging directly with the structure of reality at its most fundamental level. Each lucid moment becomes a conscious experiment in the multiverse, offering evidence that dreams are more than idle illusions. They are access points to the infinite. Human beings occasionally encounter experiences that feel as though reality itself has bent in ways we cannot explain. Déjà vu, the sudden sensation that a present moment has already occurred, is one of the most common examples. People describe walking into a room, hearing a phrase, or watching an event unfold, only to be struck with an undeniable sense of familiarity. Mainstream science often attributes this to a misfiring in the brain's memory systems, where perception is mistakenly processed as recollection. Yet this explanation feels incomplete. The depth of recognition in déjà vu often carries a weight that exceeds what mere neural hiccups could provide. Within the lens of quantum dreaming, déjà vu may represent something far more profound. A brief overlap between multiple timelines that the mind has already encountered during dreams. If dreams serve as portals into alternate branches of reality, then the phenomenon of déjà vu becomes easier to understand. While asleep, the dreaming self may inhabit a parallel version of life, experiencing situations that later resemble waking reality. When those moments eventually occur in the waking world, the conscious mind recalls the event, not because it misfiled a memory, but because it genuinely lived that moment elsewhere. Déjà vu, then, becomes evidence of leakage between dream-based experiences in parallel worlds and the linear narrative of waking life. This would explain why déjà vu often feels like more than recognition. It feels like reliving. Beyond déjà vu, people sometimes report moments that seem like glitches in the fabric of existence. These are brief, disorienting events where reality does not behave as expected. Some describe objects disappearing and reappearing in impossible ways, while others recall conversations or events unfolding differently than they should have. Popular culture often frames these as glitches in the matrix, but within the context of quantum dreaming, they could represent collisions between overlapping realities. During sleep, consciousness may have already navigated a slightly different path. When waking life contradicts that remembered path, the inconsistency manifests as a perceptual glitch. Perhaps the most intriguing collective example of such slippages is the Mandela effect. This term refers to widespread false memories shared by large groups of people. The name originates from many people recalling that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s, despite historical records showing he lived until 2013. Other examples include misremembered movie lines, brand logos, and even geography. Conventional psychology explains this as a product of cultural memory errors reinforced through social suggestion. Yet the scale of the phenomenon challenges this dismissal. When millions confidently remember a past that never happened, one must at least consider whether reality itself is shifting. The Mandela effect fits seamlessly into the hypothesis of dreams bridging parallel realities. If each night the mind wanders across branches of the multiverse, then fragments of those experiences could resurface during waking life, causing confusion when they do not align with the dominant timeline. Collective Mandela effects could arise because many individuals access the same alternate branches during dreams. Shared dream states may provide a common source of memory, explaining why unrelated people recall the same false history. This framework also contextualizes why such effects often feel so emotionally charged. Déjà vu can be unsettling not simply because it is familiar, but because it carries the weight of genuine experience from another branch. Glitches in reality are disorienting not just because they contradict expectations, but because they expose fractures in the narrative of existence. The Mandela effect is not trivial. It feels like a violation of trust in the fabric of memory itself. If all of these are manifestations of quantum leakage from dream-based experiences, then they highlight the fragile boundaries between realities and the permeability of consciousness. One compelling aspect of this interpretation is how it reframes the role of dreams in shaping memory. Instead of acting as random firing of neurons or as tools of subconscious processing, dreams could function as nightly journeys through possible lives. The mind, moving across different quantum states, gathers experiences from multiple branches. Most are forgotten upon waking, but occasionally fragments persist. When those fragments align closely with waking events, they emerge as déjà vu. When they conflict, they appear as glitches. And when entire groups share fragments from the same branch, they manifest as collective memory distortions known as Mandela effects. Skeptics may argue that these interpretations stretch beyond what is testable, yet the persistence and universality of such phenomena demand explanation. Nearly everyone has felt déjà vu. Glitches, while less common, are consistently reported across cultures. Mandela effects continue to spark debate and astonishment online, drawing attention precisely because so many individuals recall the same contradictions. If all of these anomalies share a common thread, the idea of quantum dreaming provides a coherent and elegant possibility. The broader implication is that reality is not fixed and absolute, but dynamic and overlapping. Our consciousness may not be bound to one linear thread, but instead weaves across multiple paths. Dreams, far from being irrelevant, could be the nightly mechanism by which the mind engages with the multiverse. And every so often, those engagements leave traces, familiar sensations, puzzling glitches, and collective memories that cannot be easily dismissed. By viewing déjà vu, glitches, and Mandela effects as signs of dream-based quantum leakage, we are forced to reconsider the solidity of waking life itself. Perhaps what we call reality is just one frame in a larger film reel, and our nightly dreams are opportunities to preview, revisit, or even rewrite scenes from parallel reels. If so, then those moments of uncanny recognition or disorientation are not malfunctions of the brain, but reminders of the vastness of existence and the interconnectedness of all its branches. Among the strangest and most intriguing reports in dream research are those involving shared dreams. These are instances where two or more people claim to have experienced the same dream environment, encountered the same characters, or recalled identical sequences of events despite being asleep in different locations. Such accounts defy conventional models of neuroscience, which assume dreams are strictly private phenomena generated within the brain. If shared dreams are possible, then something beyond the individual mind must be at play, and this opens the door to ideas drawn from quantum entanglement. Entanglement is one of the most counterintuitive yet experimentally verified aspects of quantum mechanics. When two particles become entangled, their states remain linked regardless of the distance separating them. A change in one particle instantaneously affects the other, even if they are light years apart. Einstein famously referred to this as spooky action at a distance, yet decades of experiments have shown it to be real. Entanglement reveals that information in the quantum realm does not respect the usual boundaries of space and time. If human consciousness has quantum underpinnings, then entanglement could extend to the mind itself. Shared dreams may occur when the quantum states of two individuals' consciousnesses become entangled during sleep, allowing them to experience overlapping dream environments. This interpretation reframes shared dreams not as coincidences or false memories, but as direct manifestations of entangled consciousness. Just as particles mirror one another across space, minds may synchronize across the multiverse, creating common dreamscapes. Historical and anecdotal accounts provide striking support for this possibility. Families have described waking up and realizing they all dreamed of the same house or event. Close friends sometimes report encountering each other within a dream and later comparing notes, only to find uncanny similarities. In some rare cases, strangers who have no direct contact with each other recount highly similar dream details, suggesting that entanglement may not be limited to emotional or familial bonds. Skeptics often argue these cases are products of suggestion or coincidence, Yet the level of detail in certain shared dream reports challenges such dismissals. When two people recall the same conversations or environments without prior coordination, coincidence becomes less convincing. Instead, entanglement provides a framework for understanding how information might travel outside conventional channels, linking minds in ways our current science struggles to map. The mechanics of how this might work can be imagined by extending what we know of quantum systems. If neurons or microtubules within the brain are capable of sustaining quantum coherence, then these structures could allow entanglement between individuals. During REM sleep, when consciousness enters altered states and neural networks are highly active, the probability of entanglement events could increase. Dreamscapes may then form not just as isolated neural activity, but as shared quantum states accessible to more than one person. This would explain why shared dreams often feel more vivid and memorable than solitary ones. Just as entangled particles exhibit correlations beyond classical systems, entangled minds may create dream environments that are unusually stable and coherent. The shared participation of multiple consciousnesses could strengthen the dream reality, making it more resistant to the fragmentation typical of normal dreaming. It also suggests that relationships and emotional bonds play a role. Entanglement is more likely to occur between systems that interact closely, and the same may be true of human consciousness. People with deep connections, family members, close friends, partners, may entangle more easily, leading to shared dreams. Yet because entanglement can transcend physical distance, such experiences do not require individuals to be near each other. Even across continents, the bond may persist. The implications of this interpretation are profound. Shared dreams could represent the first hints that consciousness operates as a collective field rather than a private stream. If dreamers can genuinely meet, interact, and exchange experiences across the multiverse, then the boundaries of individuality blur. Consciousness becomes not just personal but interconnected, woven together through quantum mechanics. This perspective also reframes myths and cultural traditions surrounding dream journeys. Many indigenous cultures hold beliefs about shared dreamscapes, where tribes or communities gather in visions to seek guidance. Modern reports of shared dreaming may be contemporary echoes of practices once considered natural. The quantum entanglement framework allows us to revisit these traditions not as superstition, but as potential insights into the mechanics of consciousness. Of course, the challenge remains in proving shared dreams scientifically. Unlike entangled particles, which can be measured and tracked, dream experiences are subjective. Yet advances in sleep research, brain imaging, and even quantum biology may one day provide the tools to test whether dreamers truly synchronize at a quantum level. For now, the consistency of shared dream reports across cultures and eras suggests that we are glimpsing a genuine phenomenon, even if its mechanisms remain elusive. If dreams are indeed quantum windows, then shared dreams may be the clearest evidence of that window opening for more than one person at a time. Entanglement provides the language to explain what might otherwise seem impossible. Consciousness interacting across distances, co-creating realities, and proving that the dream state is far more than a private hallucination. Shared dreams may be the most direct demonstration that our nightly journeys are not confined to our own minds, but unfold in a collective quantum landscape accessible to all who are entangled within it. One of the most striking features of dreams is the way time behaves within them. A person may close their eyes, drift into sleep for only a few minutes, and yet experience what feels like hours or even days unfolding in the dream. Entire narratives with beginnings, climaxes, and resolutions can be compressed into brief windows of real-world time. Conversely, some dreams seem to pass in mere seconds, even though the dreamer has been asleep for long stretches. This elasticity of time perception raises profound questions about how consciousness processes temporal flow while dreaming, and whether it may reflect deeper quantum principles. Neuroscience has long acknowledged that our perception of time is a construct of the brain. In waking life, time feels linear and steady, because our senses and cognition continuously anchor us to physical reality. During sleep, however, those anchors loosen, and the mind is freed from the strict calibration of external clocks. In this altered state, the brain appears to generate its own sense of time, one that is malleable, non-linear, and often disconnected from waking duration. Dreams reveal that time is not absolute, but a fluid construct shaped by consciousness. Quantum mechanics offers a parallel insight. At the quantum level, time is not treated as a universal flow. Instead, time emerges as a parameter dependent on relationships between systems. In fact, many interpretations of quantum physics suggest that time itself may be reversible or even illusory when viewed at the most fundamental scale. The equations governing quantum mechanics often work equally well, whether time is moving forward or backward, challenging our intuitive sense that the arrow of time is fixed. This symmetry between dreaming and quantum mechanics is striking. Just as the dreamer can experience expansive narratives within compressed intervals, quantum systems can exist in superpositions where past and future blur together. Some physicists even propose that cause and effect may not be as rigid as we assume, with events in the future potentially influencing those in the past. Dreams, then, may serve as an experiential echo of this quantum flexibility, where temporal order is not absolute, but emergent and malleable. Many dreamers describe scenarios in which time loops or folds upon itself. A dream might repeat in cycles, as if caught in a temporal loop. Others report experiencing events in reverse, or revisiting earlier dream moments with variations, almost like replays with altered details. These distortions mirror certain quantum models that explore closed time-like curves, hypothetical structures in space-time where events could loop back on themselves. While speculative in physics, the dream state presents a psychological counterpart. The subjective experience of time looping, reversing, or branching. Consider also the phenomenon of precognitive dreams, where individuals report dreaming about future events that later occur in waking life. Though often dismissed as coincidence, such experiences gain new resonance when viewed through the lens of quantum time. If quantum mechanics allows for retrocausality, where information can travel backward through time, then consciousness during dreams might occasionally access future states of reality. The dream world, with its loosened grip on linear time, may provide the mental environment where such glimpses are possible. From a biological standpoint, the brain may facilitate this temporal fluidity through its reliance on memory and imagination. During REM sleep, neural circuits responsible for memory consolidation and imagination are highly active. This allows the brain to weave together fragments of past experiences, speculative scenarios, and emotional tones into dream narratives. Because these processes are not bound to chronological order, the result is a landscape where time can stretch, compress, or fold. Quantum theories of consciousness suggest that beneath these neural dynamics, quantum processes may enable the brain to access non-local information, including possible future states. Another compelling aspect of dream time is the way it feels subjectively real despite its distortions. While dreaming, we rarely question the passage of time, even when hours of dream experience occur in minutes of real sleep. This suggests that the mind's construction of time is deeply convincing, regardless of its relation to waking chronology. Quantum mechanics similarly challenges our assumptions about reality by showing that what we perceive as fixed may be the result of deeper processes hidden from direct observation. In both cases, our experience of time may be less about objective truth and more about how consciousness interprets underlying patterns. Some researchers speculate that dreaming may serve as a rehearsal for navigating non-linear time. By experiencing time in warped or looped forms, The brain might be testing models of reality beyond the ordinary. This could prepare us, on some level, to recognize that waking life itself is not bound by an absolute clock, but is instead a construct of perception. If consciousness is truly quantum in nature, then dreams may be our most accessible window into experiencing time, as the quantum world does, flexible, reversible, and non-linear. Philosophically, this challenges how we view memory, destiny, and choice. If dreams allow access to future possibilities through temporal loops, then free will might coexist with glimpses of predetermined pathways. Some dreams may not merely replay past experiences, but foreshadow outcomes by tapping into quantum probabilities. This would mean that time is not a straight line we march down, but a vast network of possible routes, with dreams occasionally showing us paths yet to be walked. The warping of time in dreams is therefore not just a curiosity of the mind, but a potential reflection of the deepest truths of reality. Quantum mechanics already demonstrates that time is not absolute, and dreams provide direct subjective experience of this principle. By studying the parallels, we may uncover how consciousness interacts with time in ways that transcend the linear, offering glimpses into the true nature of existence as a dynamic, multidimensional flow, rather than a rigid sequence of events. Few ideas stretch the imagination more than the concept of quantum immortality. Emerging from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, this notion suggests that consciousness never truly encounters death. Instead, at the critical point where death would occur, there is always some branch of reality in which survival continues. From the inside perspective of consciousness, one never experiences the final end-only transition into the version of reality where existence persists. It is unsettling, profound, and controversial, but it raises a question that ties directly into the strange fabric of dreaming. Could our dreams sometimes offer glimpses into these continuities of survival? To understand the core of this idea, imagine a life-threatening scenario, a car crash, a terminal illness, or even something as sudden as a falling object. In the classical view of physics, there is a single outcome, life or death, determined by physical causes. But under the quantum framework, every possible outcome is realized in branching universes. In some branches, the individual dies. In others, by improbable chance, survival occurs. If consciousness is entangled with these quantum possibilities, then the subjective experience will always follow the surviving branch. This would mean that to the individual, death is never directly felt. Instead, awareness continues in whatever improbable version of events allows survival. Now think about how dreams often immerse us in situations where death is confronted but rarely completed. Many people report dreams where they fall from great heights, are attacked, or face annihilation. Yet in most cases, they awaken before the final moment. The mind resists playing out the full scenario of death. This pattern aligns eerily with the logic of quantum immortality. The consciousness of the dreamer is not capable of experiencing death itself, only the near approach and subsequent continuation. Could these dreams be symbolic rehearsals of what happens at the quantum level, that the mind is drawn away from branches of finality and into pathways of survival? Some accounts go further. Individuals describe dreams in which they experience dying, only to find themselves immediately in another scene, another version of reality where they continue on. The transition is often abrupt, like stepping across a threshold. These dream sequences raise the possibility that the dream state acts as a bridge between branches of existence. Perhaps when the brain enters REM sleep, its quantum processes tune into not just parallel lives, but also those continuities where survival has occurred beyond near-death points. Biologically, this fits with the protective role of dreaming. Neuroscience shows that REM sleep is essential for emotional processing, memory integration, and problem-solving. If quantum immortality has any basis, the dream state may be the brain's way of processing these transitions, smoothing the discontinuity of hopping between branches by weaving survival into symbolic narratives. A nightmare of dying could be the subconscious registering a near-death branch, while the seamless continuation into another dream or awakening represents consciousness locking onto the survival branch. Philosophically, this raises profound implications. If one never experiences death subjectively, does that mean consciousness is unending? Quantum immortality does not suggest invulnerability in a single universe, but posits that from the first-person perspective, there will always be a timeline in which one continues. Over infinite branches, this leads to an unbroken thread of awareness. Dreams could be microcosmic rehearsals for this principle, where every apparent ending transforms into continuation. They may be glimpses into the resilience of consciousness across branching realities. Skeptics argue that quantum immortality is unfalsifiable, as we cannot step outside our own experience to verify alternative outcomes. Yet its resonance with dream phenomena is difficult to ignore. The recurring avoidance of final death in dreams, the transitions into alternate dreamscapes after apparent endings, and the profound sense of survival despite impossible odds mirror the theory too closely to dismiss outright. At the very least, dreams provide a symbolic, psychological canvas on which this quantum possibility plays out. There is also the question of identity. If consciousness continues indefinitely across survival branches, what happens to the self? Is the you that awakens in the improbable survival branch identical to the you who faced death in another? Dreams may offer hints here as well. In them, identity is often fluid. One may shift between different versions of oneself, take on new roles, or inhabit perspectives that are both familiar and foreign. This fluidity mirrors the idea that identity across quantum branches is not fixed but constantly reconstructed, tethered to continuity of awareness rather than absolute stability. Some people describe dreams where they awaken in a life that feels alien yet undeniably their own, as if they slipped into another branch of reality. These experiences may be nothing more than the brain's creativity, but if quantum immortality is true, they could reflect survival in alternate continuities, where identity adjusts to improbable outcomes. What feels like a surreal dream might be the echo of stepping into a world where one has already bypassed death. The implications for how we view mortality are staggering. Instead of death being the absolute end, consciousness may simply shift into another reality where survival carries forward. Dreams, by exposing us to death-like scenarios without ever letting us fully die, may be gently preparing us for the truth that awareness is never extinguished. They function as windows into continuity, reminding us that the narrative never halts completely. If quantum immortality is more than speculation, then our dreams are not just random firings of neurons, but a profound rehearsal of the greatest transition of all, the leap beyond death into ongoing existence. They may not only symbolize but actively participate in the process, anchoring consciousness into survival pathways across the vast web of parallel universes. Long before physics labs and quantum equations, ancient traditions treated dreams as more than imagination. For countless cultures, the dream world was not a private illusion, but a shared, profound dimension of reality. Strikingly, when we compare those perspectives with modern quantum theory, the echoes are impossible to miss. The idea that dreams may connect us to other planes of existence is not new at all. It is one of humanity's oldest insights, now reframed by science. Indigenous cultures across the globe have always recognized the special role of dreams. Among Native American tribes, particularly the Ojibwe, dreams were considered spiritual journeys and sources of guidance. The vision quest often began in the dream state, where encounters with animals, ancestors, or symbols carried practical meaning for waking life. These weren't interpreted as fantasy, but as communications from a deeper layer of reality. Similarly, Aboriginal Australians preserved an entire cosmology called the Dreamtime, where dreams connected individuals to the timeless origins of existence. In that worldview, dreaming was both a personal experience and a collective access point to creation itself. When we step into Tibetan traditions, we find even more sophisticated frameworks. Tibetan Buddhism developed the practice of dream yoga, a discipline that treated dreams as opportunities to train consciousness. Practitioners learned to recognize the dream state, maintain awareness within it, and use it as a gateway into higher states of mind. The ultimate goal was liberation from illusions, not just in dreams but in waking life as well. In their view, the dream state was not a lesser reality, but a parallel one, just as valid for spiritual practice. Now bring these ancient understandings alongside the questions raised by quantum physics. Quantum mechanics suggests that reality is not singular and fixed but layered, uncertain, and probabilistic. The many worlds interpretation implies that countless versions of events unfold simultaneously. Consciousness, as we've explored earlier, may itself be tied to quantum processes, capable of slipping between possibilities. Suddenly, those ancient perspectives don't sound mystical. They sound uncannily aligned with modern theoretical physics. Consider the Aboriginal Dreamtime idea that the dream state connects to the foundation of reality, where time is non-linear and creation is ongoing. This mirrors the quantum view of a universe where past, present, and future are not absolute but interwoven. The quantum fabric is timeless at its core, and dreams as glimpses into that timeless dimension resonate with both Aboriginal teachings and modern physics. Or take Tibetan dream yoga, where practitioners aim to realize awareness within the dream and transcend ordinary perception. Compare this with the hypothesis that lucid dreaming could represent heightened consciousness during a quantum shift, where awareness bridges different possible realities. Both perspectives describe an expansion of human potential through mastering the dream state, treating it not as illusion, but as a training ground for navigating reality itself. Even in shamanic traditions from South America, dreams are described as journeys beyond the physical body. Shamans often report entering dream realms to heal, communicate, or access knowledge otherwise unavailable in waking life. These journeys sound remarkably similar to the concept of tuning into parallel worlds, an idea quantum mechanics entertains when discussing superposition and branching realities. Skeptics might argue that these cultural parallels are coincidental, that ancient peoples simply mythologize their dreams, but the persistence of these ideas across civilizations suggests something deeper. Human beings, throughout history, have intuited that dreaming is not contained within the skull. The dream state feels like an opening, and whether expressed as dreamtime, vision quests, or yoga, that opening has always been interpreted as access to a larger reality. Quantum theory provides a language that reframes those insights. Where indigenous traditions speak of spirits or creation layers, physics speaks of parallel worlds and quantum fields. Where Tibetans train to awaken in dreams, physicists describe the observer effect, the awareness that alters outcomes in quantum experiments. The symmetry is striking. Another intriguing overlap lies in the role of intention. In dream yoga and shamanic practice, intention is everything. What you seek determines what you encounter. Similarly, in quantum mechanics, the observer effect suggests that measurement, or the act of conscious focus, influences what becomes real. Both traditions and physics hint at a participatory universe, where awareness and intention shape experience. This raises a provocative thought. Perhaps these ancient practices were early methods of interacting with quantum realities, even if the language was different. When a shaman traveled in a dream to heal someone, they might have been shifting into a parallel version of reality where healing had already occurred. When a Tibetan monk gained clarity in a lucid dream, they may have been exercising control over consciousness in a quantum landscape. It is important, however, to stay grounded. Quantum physics is not a mystical belief system. It is a scientific framework tested through rigorous experiments. But when its strange principles converge with humanity's oldest dream traditions, it forces us to reconsider whether those ancient voices were sensing truths that science is only now beginning to measure. Dreams as parallel journeys, time as nonlinear, consciousness as a force that shapes reality. These are themes that appear across centuries and across cultures. They also emerge from equations and thought experiments in quantum theory. The resonance between the two does not mean they are identical, but it does suggest that the boundary between ancient wisdom and modern science is thinner than we often assume. For a culture raised on materialism, this convergence is unsettling. It suggests that the ancients weren't merely telling symbolic stories, but engaging with aspects of reality that quantum theory now illuminates. Dreams, in this view, may be less about fantasy and more about accessing dimensions of existence that transcend waking logic. If we take this seriously, then modern science and ancient wisdom can inform one another. Indigenous practices remind us that dreams deserve respect as a realm of exploration. Quantum theory reminds us that the fabric of reality itself is stranger and more open-ended than classical science ever allowed. Together, they point toward a vision where the dream state is not a passive byproduct, but an active channel into the greater multiverse. Perhaps the real frontier lies not only in particle accelerators or telescopes, but also in the ancient practices that taught us to enter dreams with awareness and intention. By bridging these two worlds, the oldest traditions of humanity and the newest theories of physics, we may begin to see dreams not as illusions, but as portals into the very structure of reality. The possibility that dreams connect us to parallel realities has, until now, largely lived in the worlds of philosophy, tradition, and theory. But humanity stands on the threshold of a technological revolution that could turn speculation into exploration. Emerging tools, quantum computers, advanced artificial intelligence, and brain-computer interfaces promise to take dreams out of the realm of mystery and into the realm of measurable data. For the first time, we may not just describe dreams, but decode, analyze, and even interact with them as if they were signals from other dimensions. Quantum computing offers the first piece of this puzzle. Unlike classical computers, which calculate in linear steps, quantum computers operate by harnessing superposition and entanglement. This allows them to perform calculations across many possible states simultaneously. If dreams are indeed windows into branching realities, then quantum computing is uniquely suited to process that complexity. Instead of reducing a dream into simple patterns of brain activity, quantum algorithms could map dream narratives as multiverse data structures, each symbol representing not only personal memory, but possible alternate outcomes. A dream where one flies might not be fantasy, but a signal from a branch of reality where gravity operates differently. Artificial intelligence expands this potential further. Current AI systems can already interpret brain scans to recreate rough images of what someone is looking at. Using fMRI and neural networks, these tools are in their infancy, yet they hint at a future where AI dream analyzers could translate the chaotic language of the sleeping brain into coherent sequences. Imagine an AI trained on thousands of dream reports, neural recordings, and cross-cultural symbolism. With such training, it could detect patterns invisible to human observers' patterns that may point to consistencies across dream experiences that align with parallel reality models. Brain-computer interfaces add a more personal layer. Already, researchers are developing devices capable of stimulating specific brain regions, allowing people to control cursors, prosthetics, or even text generators with thought alone. If applied to dreaming, these interfaces might allow a dreamer not only to record, but to steer their experience. A lucid dreamer connected to such technology could mark specific moments of awareness, providing data that distinguishes between subconscious construction and potentially anomalous input. These moments of awareness could then be analyzed against quantum models, seeking correlations with non-local phenomena such as entanglement. Speculation grows even more daring when these technologies converge. Picture a future laboratory where dreamers are connected to brain-computer interfaces, their brain activity mapped in real time by quantum computers, and the output interpreted by AI systems trained to recognize patterns across parallel branches. What once seemed intangible, the fleeting images of a dream, could become streams of data visualized on a screen. Researchers could ask, are there elements in dreams that cannot be traced to memory or imagination, yet still appear consistently across individuals? Could such elements be the signature of information leakage between realities? There are already early signs that technology is moving in this direction. Neuroscientists have managed to communicate with people inside their dreams, asking questions and receiving answers while the dream unfolds. This two-way communication suggests that dreams are not sealed-off worlds, but accessible states of consciousness. With refinement, this technique could be combined with quantum-based computational models to treat dreams not as random imagery, but as structured explorations of alternate outcomes. Artificial intelligence would play a vital role in distinguishing noise from signal. Dreams are notoriously messy, blending fragments of memory, emotion, and sensation. Yet AI excels at finding hidden order in apparent chaos. With enough training data, it might discover recurring motifs across unrelated dreamers, perhaps revealing universal features of dream landscapes that align with quantum predictions. For example, if multiple people report vivid experiences of unfamiliar places that nonetheless correspond to consistent architectures or physics, AI could flag these as potential indicators of shared parallel domains. Quantum computers would further push this analysis into territory classical systems cannot reach. Dreams, if they are indeed portals into branching universes, may contain correlations too complex for ordinary computing. Quantum algorithms could model these correlations as entangled systems, searching for signatures of non-classical information. In other words, instead of treating a dream as a solitary product of one brain, they could analyze it as part of a wider network of realities, each connected by quantum processes. The implications of such research extend beyond curiosity. If technology confirms that dreams are more than imagination, it could transform how we understand identity, memory, and mortality. Brain-computer interfaces might allow individuals to deliberately navigate dreams as explorations of alternate selves. AI analyzers could construct detailed maps of dream worlds, effectively charting the multiverse through nightly journeys. Quantum computing could reveal whether consciousness itself shifts states in ways measurable against physical theories. Together, these tools might turn the private, fleeting act of dreaming into a collective exploration of existence itself. Of course, ethical questions would arise immediately. Who would own dream data? If dreams provide glimpses into other lives, could corporations or governments attempt to exploit them, mining multiverse information for power? Could technology erase the last private frontier of the human mind, turning even dreams into commodities? These concerns underscore the need for careful boundaries, even as the science advances. Yet for all the challenges, the trajectory is clear. Technology is shrinking the gap between imagination and measurement, just as telescopes opened the heavens to human eyes, and microscopes revealed hidden worlds in a drop of water. Quantum computers, AI, and brain interfaces may open dreams to rigorous study. If those dreams are indeed connections to parallel realities, then the next great frontier of discovery lies not in space or matter, but in the quiet hours of sleep. By blending the oldest of mysteries with the newest of machines, we may discover that every night we hold in our minds not illusions, but maps to the multiverse. The tools are emerging. The question is whether we are ready to use them, and whether what we find in our dreams will confirm the deepest suspicions of quantum theory, that reality itself is infinite, layered, and interconnected. Dreams have long been seen as elusive and unmeasurable, but in recent decades, science has begun probing them with tools precise enough to uncover patterns that challenge simple explanations. While no experiment has conclusively proven that dreams are portals into parallel realities, several areas of research, quantum biology, neuroscience, and dream studies present data that, when viewed together, point toward intriguing possibilities. The results are fragmentary, but they suggest that something far more complex may be happening in the sleeping mind than the recycling of memories. One of the most compelling areas of evidence comes from quantum biology. Traditionally, quantum effects were thought to occur only at subatomic levels and collapse when exposed to the warm, wet conditions of living cells. Yet researchers have repeatedly found signs of quantum processes at work inside biology. In photosynthesis, for example, plants appear to use quantum coherence to transfer energy with nearly perfect efficiency, as if photons can explore multiple pathways simultaneously before settling on the optimal one. Similarly, evidence suggests that birds navigate using quantum entanglement in proteins within their eyes, effectively allowing them to sense Earth's magnetic field. These findings show that living systems are not closed off from quantum effects, but instead rely on them. If this is true, the brain, arguably the most complex biological system we know, may also be harnessing quantum mechanics, particularly in states like dreaming when normal sensory input is minimized. Neuroscience adds another layer of curiosity. Electroencephalography, or EEG, has been a central tool for monitoring brain activity during sleep. It reveals that during REM sleep, the stage most associated with vivid dreaming, the brain shows a mixture of fast, wake-like activity combined with distinctive bursts called PGO waves. These bursts are thought to play a role in generating dream imagery, but some studies show anomalies that defy easy classification. In certain experiments, researchers found synchronized activity across distant brain regions that seemed too coordinated to be explained by normal neural firing alone. Some theorists suggest that quantum coherence could underlie this coordination, allowing brain regions to act as if connected non-locally. Experiments in dream communication have pushed the frontier even further. In 2021, multiple independent teams demonstrated that it is possible to establish real-time dialogue with people inside their dreams. Subjects were asked math problems or yes/no questions while in REM sleep, and they were able to respond accurately by moving their eyes or signaling with facial twitches. This breakthrough indicates that dreaming is not a sealed-off state, but one that can be engaged from the outside. If consciousness during dreaming can interact with the waking world, then the boundary between inner experience and external reality is more porous than we once believed. Another set of findings comes from shared or overlapping dream reports. While often dismissed as anecdotal, some experiments have tried to test whether two people can intentionally meet in a dream environment. In a few cases, participants described highly similar settings or events despite being separated during sleep. Though skeptics attribute this to coincidence or suggestion, the results remain difficult to explain fully. If dreams occasionally overlap in content between different people, quantum entanglement becomes a candidate explanation. Two minds linked at a fundamental level, exchanging information in ways traditional neuroscience can't yet describe. Lucid dreaming research adds more fuel. Brain scans show that when someone becomes aware they are dreaming, regions linked to self-reflection and decision-making light up, resembling waking activity. In some cases, lucid dreamers have been able to control their dreams with surprising precision, altering environments or outcomes as if testing different possibilities. This kind of agency has led some researchers to propose that lucid dreams might provide controlled conditions for exploring alternate realities moments when the brain is both connected to the dream and aware enough to guide it. Even more provocative are reports of EEG anomalies that do not fit current models. Some sleep labs have recorded bursts of brain activity during dreaming that appear to violate expected energy limits. Instead of the smooth waves typical of REM sleep, these bursts look like chaotic interference patterns, resembling noise but occurring in repeated, structured ways. When analyzed mathematically, some of these patterns bear resemblance to quantum interference phenomena observed in physics experiments. Though highly controversial, such findings invite the possibility that the brain might momentarily enter quantum-like states during dream activity. Outside of neuroscience, parapsychological experiments, while often criticized, add a fringe but intriguing dataset. Studies such as the Maimonides dream telepathy experiments attempted to determine whether dreamers could receive information from another person during sleep. While results varied, some sessions produced above-chance accuracy when dreamers were asked to describe an image someone else was focusing on. These experiments remain disputed, but if they hint at even a fraction of validity, they suggest non-local connections that standard models of consciousness cannot explain. When viewed individually, none of these findings prove the idea of parallel realities intersecting with dreams. Photosynthetic quantum effects could remain isolated to plants. EEG anomalies might eventually find ordinary neurological explanations, and dream communication may reveal nothing more than heightened responsiveness. But when taken together, they form a mosaic that is difficult to dismiss. Living systems demonstrably use quantum mechanics. The dreaming brain produces patterns of activity that sometimes resemble non-classical interference. Consciousness during sleep can interact with external prompts and, in rare cases, align between separate individuals. The challenge lies in interpretation. Are these pieces of evidence pointing toward a radical rethinking of dreams as multiverse crossings? Or do they reflect mechanisms we simply haven't yet mapped within the standard framework of neuroscience? The answer is not yet clear, but the evidence provides a foundation strong enough to merit deeper investigation. Where once dreams were seen as purely subjective, experiments are beginning to show objective markers that can be measured, analyzed, and perhaps, one day, explained. This is the critical shift. Dreams are no longer beyond the reach of science. The tools are primitive compared to what may come, but the direction is unmistakable. From quantum biology to EEG anomalies, from real-time communication with dreamers to controversial telepathy studies, evidence is accumulating that something more than random imagination is at play. Whether the ultimate explanation proves to be parallel realities or a new model of brain function, experiments are already hinting at truths far stranger than conventional science once allowed. If dreams are more than fragments of imagination, if they truly provide glimpses into parallel realities, then the implications are not only profound, but also potentially hazardous. On the surface, the idea might seem liberating. Each night, we could be explorers stepping across the boundaries of universes. Yet beneath that possibility lies a landscape filled with risks, contradictions, and dilemmas that touch psychology, identity, and the very structure of reality. To entertain such a theory is to recognize that the doors we imagine opening may not always lead to safe or stable places. One immediate risk lies in the human mind itself. Dreams already have the capacity to blur memory, to create confusion between what is real and what is imagined. If they also function as portals into alternate versions of existence, then distinguishing personal identity could become increasingly difficult. Imagine waking from a dream where you lived years of another life, with relationships, achievements, or failures entirely foreign to your waking self. The psychological strain of holding 2 or dozens of overlapping identities could fracture one's sense of continuity. In severe cases, it could lead to dissociation, where the dreamer no longer feels anchored in any single version of reality. Another danger stems from paradox. If dreams are contact points between multiple timelines, then interactions within them may have consequences that extend beyond the dreamer. Suppose an individual makes a choice in a dream that influences events in that parallel reality. Would that choice feed back into the dreamer's own waking universe, or remain sealed in the other branch? And if feedback does occur, does it violate the stability of causality? These questions point toward paradoxes reminiscent of quantum thought experiments, where observation itself alters the outcome. The danger here is conceptual but real. Tampering with dream states as multiverse gateways could destabilize the logical foundations of what we call consistent reality. The challenge lies in interpretation. Are these pieces of evidence pointing toward a radical rethinking of dreams as multiverse crossings? Or do they reflect mechanisms we simply haven't yet mapped within the standard framework of neuroscience? The answer is not yet clear, but the evidence provides a foundation strong enough to merit deeper investigation. Where once dreams were seen as purely subjective, experiments are beginning to show objective markers that can be measured, analyzed, and perhaps, one day, explained. This is the critical shift. Dreams are no longer beyond the reach of science. The tools are primitive compared to what may come, but the direction is unmistakable. From quantum biology to EEG anomalies, from real-time communication with dreamers to controversial telepathy studies, evidence is accumulating that something more than random imagination is at play. Whether the ultimate explanation proves to be parallel realities or a new model of brain function, experiments are already hinting at truths far stranger than conventional science once allowed. If dreams are more than fragments of imagination, if they truly provide glimpses into parallel realities, then the implications are not only profound, but also potentially hazardous. On the surface, the idea might seem liberating. Each night, we could be explorers stepping across the boundaries of universes, yet beneath that possibility lies a landscape filled with risks, contradictions, and dilemmas that touch psychology, identity, and the very structure of reality. To entertain such a theory is to recognize that the doors we imagine opening may not always lead to safe or stable places. One immediate risk lies in the human mind itself. Dreams already have the capacity to blur memory, to create confusion between what is real and what is imagined. If they also function as portals into alternate versions of existence, then distinguishing personal identity could become increasingly difficult. Imagine waking from a dream where you lived years of another life, with relationships, achievements, or failures entirely foreign to your waking self. The psychological strain of holding 2 or dozens of overlapping identities could fracture one's sense of continuity. In severe cases, it could lead to dissociation, where the dreamer no longer feels anchored in any single version of reality. Another danger stems from paradox. If dreams are contact points between multiple timelines, then interactions within them may have consequences that extend beyond the dreamer. Suppose an individual makes a choice in a dream that influences events in that parallel reality. Would that choice feed back into the dreamer's own waking universe, or remain sealed in the other branch? And if feedback does occur, does it violate the stability of causality? These questions point toward paradoxes reminiscent of quantum thought experiments, where observation itself alters the outcome. The danger here is conceptual but real. Tampering with dream states as multiverse gateways could destabilize the logical foundations of what we call consistent reality. At the same time, paradox emerges in the concept of immortality. If consciousness continues along unbroken paths through parallel realities, then death may never truly be experienced. Yet this so-called survival carries its own dangers. The dreamer may awaken in universes increasingly divergent from the ones they remember, leading to disorientation and alienation. The continuity of consciousness becomes a double-edged sword. Survival is assured, but stability is not. This paradox challenges the very meaning of life and death, dissolving finality into endless fragmentation. There is also the metaphysical risk of collapse. If too much overlap occurs between dream realities, could the boundaries between universes destabilize? Theories of quantum decoherence suggest that separations between branches are maintained by delicate balances. Dreaming might, in some cases, act as interferent small ripples that threaten to merge or blur distinctions. While speculative, the danger is not trivial. The multiverse may depend on clear separations for its coherence. If dreaming minds inadvertently disturb those boundaries, the very structure of reality could be at risk. Ultimately, the dangers and paradoxes surrounding dreams as gateways to parallel realities highlight both the promise and the peril of the theory. Dreams may offer profound insights into the nature of consciousness and existence, but they also invite questions that destabilize identity, morality, and stability itself. The risks are not only scientific, but deeply human, touching the core of what it means to live a life that feels real and coherent. When we speak of identity, we often picture it as a singular thread, a story that begins with birth, unfolds across years, and ultimately closes with death. But if dreams are glimpses into parallel realities, then this simple story fractures into something far more complex. Instead of one continuous line, identity becomes a vast network of branching paths, each containing another version of you, living out a different possibility. The question then arises, if these versions are equally real, what does it mean to be you? Dreams give us an intimate glimpse into this puzzle. Sometimes, in sleep, we inhabit lives that feel startlingly foreign, yet strangely authentic. You may find yourself working in a profession you never studied for, speaking a language you have never learned, or recognizing people you have never met in waking life, yet feel you've known forever. These experiences, often dismissed as the brain's random constructions, may instead represent genuine fragments of alternate versions of yourself. If this is true, then individuality is no longer confined to a single narrative. It is scattered across countless realities. This idea forces a rethinking of selfhood. In traditional psychology, identity is defined by memory, continuity, and personal agency. You are the same person today that you were yesterday because you recall your past and can project yourself into the future. But if dreams reveal other lives, equally detailed and equally coherent, then the continuity of self becomes less about a single body or timeline, and more about a field of overlapping existences. Your waking life may simply be the version you are most attuned to, not the only one that exists. Philosophy has long grappled with such questions. Thinkers like Derek Parfit challenge the notion of identity as an unbroken essence, suggesting instead that selfhood is a pattern, a collection of psychological and physical states. If patterns can exist in multiple places at once, then your dream self is not a mere shadow, but another instantiation of that pattern. From this perspective, individuality is not destroyed by multiplicity, but expanded. You are not one being but many, each equally valid, each equally you. The quantum view strengthens this interpretation. In quantum mechanics, particles do not have fixed states until they are observed. They exist in superpositions, occupying many possibilities simultaneously. If consciousness operates on similar principles, then the self too may be a superposition, a set of parallel versions waiting for attention to collapse them into experience. Dreams could be moments when the collapse is loosened, when the mind roams across multiple versions instead of remaining anchored to one. This challenges the boundaries between real and unreal. If you dream of a life where you made different choices, does that life carry less weight simply because you wake up elsewhere? The emotions, sensations, and memories experienced in those dreams often feel just as genuine as those of waking life. If reality is measured by lived experience, then the dream self demands recognition. To deny its reality may simply be a bias toward the branch of existence we inhabit most consistently, not an objective truth. Yet this expansion of identity raises profound dilemmas. If every version of you is equally real, which one carries responsibility for your actions? Is guilt confined to a single branch, or does it echo across them all? Imagine committing an act in one reality, while another version of you lives peacefully in another. Both are authentically you, yet their moral legacies diverge. This complicates the very idea of accountability, suggesting that morality might stretch across universes in ways we cannot yet comprehend. The multiplicity of selves also challenges our concept of individuality in relationships. Consider love, friendship, or family bonds. If each dream self experiences connections with other beings, then those relationships are just as real within their respective timelines. What does loyalty mean when one version of you is devoted to a partner who does not exist in your waking reality, while another version loves someone entirely different? The emotional authenticity of those dream bonds makes it difficult to dismiss them as illusions. They are real for that version of you, and that version is just as real as the one listening to this theory now. There is also a practical consequence for self-perception. If identity spans across universes, then the boundaries of self-image broaden dramatically. Successes and failures, joys and tragedies, all exist within the network of parallel selves. The individual can no longer claim exclusive ownership of achievements or mistakes, because countless other versions have achieved differently, failed differently, lived differently. This may be liberating, relieving the pressure of perfection by recognizing that every possible outcome already exists, but it may also be disorienting, dissolving the sense of uniqueness that anchors human pride and purpose. Dreams then become the interface where this multiplicity reveals itself. They act as fleeting reminders that the self is not singular but manifold, that individuality is more like a constellation than a single star. Each dream may highlight one point of light, but taken together, they form a broader pattern, the quantum self in its entirety. Accepting this view requires humility, a willingness to see identity not as a rigid possession, but as a dynamic, distributed phenomenon woven across realities. In this way, individuality is not lost but redefined. To be you is not to be the sum of one narrative, but to participate in a vast field of parallel narratives, each equally authentic, each equally alive. Dreams are not just stories you tell yourself in the dark. They are the voices of other selves, calling across the fabric of the multiverse, reminding you that your identity is bigger, stranger, and more expansive than you ever imagined. The attempt to connect the mystery of dreams with the framework of quantum theory demands more than scattered speculation. It requires a synthesis that respects neuroscience, honors philosophy, and incorporates the radical insights of physics. To move toward a unified theory of quantum dreams, we must weave these domains together, identifying where their principles overlap and where they illuminate hidden aspects of each other. Start with neuroscience, the discipline most immediately grounded in observable evidence. Modern sleep research shows that dreams emerge most vividly during REM cycles, when the brain enters a unique state of neural activity. The cortex fires intensely, the limbic system engages emotional processing, and the prefrontal regions that enforce logic and order partially deactivate. This combination creates a fertile environment where images, sensations, and narratives flow without the constraints of waking rationality. From a biological perspective, dreams allow the brain to process memories, rehearse scenarios, and integrate new experiences into existing frameworks. Yet biology alone cannot explain the peculiar qualities of dreaming. The sense of reality within unreality, the sudden leaps in narrative coherence, the appearance of knowledge or environments the dreamer has never consciously encountered. This is where quantum physics enters the conversation. Quantum systems are defined by uncertainty, superposition, and entanglement. They operate on rules that defy classical intuition, yet reveal deeper structures of possibility. The human brain, though a macroscopic organ, contains microstructures such as neural proteins and synaptic networks that may be sensitive to quantum effects. If even a fraction of cognitive activity relies on quantum phenomena, then dreams could be tapping into probabilistic layers of existence that extend beyond ordinary perception. Philosophy bridges these two perspectives. Questions of identity, consciousness, and reality have been debated for centuries, long before science provided modern tools. Thinkers from Plato to William James considered dreams as windows into other aspects of being, realms where the self interacts with truths obscured in waking life. If consciousness is not confined to the brain but emerges as a fundamental feature of the universe, as some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest, then dreams may be occasions when this universal field is accessed more directly. They become not illusions but interactions, dialogues with alternate forms of existence. To unify these perspectives, consider this hypothesis. Dreams are the experiential surface of a deeper quantum process. The brain, during sleep, loosens its fixation on the classical reality we navigate while awake. Neural activity still operates within biological structures, but the absence of external sensory input allows the mind to drift into states where quantum information becomes perceptible. Instead of processing only memories from waking life, the dreaming brain interacts with probabilistic states that span multiple versions of reality. The bizarre coherence of dream narratives, the way they feel simultaneously alien and familiar, reflects this blending of biological memory with quantum possibility. Under this model, neuroscience provides the mechanism, physics supplies the substrate, and philosophy gives meaning. The brain generates the theater of the dream, but the script is influenced by quantum superpositions, and the interpretation depends on how we define the self and reality. Each domain validates the others. Biology ensures that dreams are not pure abstraction. Physics ensures that they are not limited to one rigid timeline. And philosophy ensures that they are not dismissed as irrelevant illusions. Such a unified theory also explains certain puzzling features of dreams. Consider precognitive dreams, where individuals report glimpses of future events that later occur. Within a classical framework, these are written off as coincidence or selective memory. But within a quantum framework, the mind in sleep may occasionally access information from branches of reality that later align with waking experience. Similarly, the phenomenon of shared dreaming, where two people report overlapping dream content, could be seen as moments of entanglement between consciousnesses, brief intersections across a shared quantum field. This approach does not claim that every dream is a direct window into another universe. Many remain simple reorganizations of daily experience, woven together by the brain's natural tendency to construct stories. But it does suggest that some dreams, particularly those marked by vivid realism, unexplainable detail, or profound emotional resonance, may reflect encounters with parallel versions of self and world. The unified theory allows both explanations to coexist, treating dreams as a spectrum from purely neurological to deeply quantum. The philosophical implications are immense. If dreams truly connect to other layers of reality, then human consciousness is not a passive observer, but an active participant in a multiversal process. Identity stretches across multiple states, meaning individuality is far more expansive than our waking minds allow. Death itself may lose its finality if consciousness, through quantum continuity, persists in alternate realities. This is not merely speculation, but a reframing of what it means to be conscious at all. For science, the next step would be to test this synthesis. Advances in neuroimaging, quantum biology, and artificial intelligence may provide tools to track dream states more precisely, searching for signatures that cannot be explained by classical brain activity alone. Philosophical rigor will remain essential to interpret those findings without reducing them to either mystical exaggeration or reductive dismissal. The goal is balance, a theory that is bold enough to integrate quantum principles, yet disciplined enough to remain grounded in empirical evidence. The vision that emerges is both unsettling and inspiring. Dreams are not mere byproducts of the sleeping brain. They are portals through which biology, physics, and philosophy converge. They suggest that the self is not bound to a single timeline, but flows across multiple realities, glimpsed in the theater of sleep. And they remind us that human consciousness may be far larger, stranger, and more interconnected than any one field of study can reveal in isolation. This unified theory does not claim final truth. It is an evolving framework, a way of aligning insights from diverse disciplines into a coherent picture. But it offers a path forward, one that respects the rigor of science, the depth of philosophy, and the lived reality of human dreaming. If correct, it changes not only how we think about sleep, but how we understand the very fabric of existence itself. If every night we slip into realities beyond our own, then dreaming ceases to be a trivial curiosity and becomes one of the most profound aspects of existence. The idea that the human mind does not simply wander through random imagery, but instead touches parallel worlds, forces us to rethink the foundations of life, death, purpose, and our place in the universe. Consider first what this does to the notion of life itself. Most cultures treat waking reality as the primary stage, with dreams reduced to shadows or fleeting echoes. But if dreams grant access to alternate states of being, then waking life is not the sole thread of experience, but one among countless strands. Our choices, our histories, our very identities become reframed as instances within a vast network. What you call your life is simply the path your consciousness is currently tuned to, while other versions of you continue their own stories elsewhere. This perspective shifts the meaning of death. Traditionally, death is seen as the final boundary, the irreversible end of selfhood. But if consciousness participates in a quantum continuum, where it never truly ceases, then death is not a wall, but a transition. Each night, as you dream, you are already practicing that transition, slipping into worlds that are unfamiliar, yet undeniably real in their own way. The fear of non-existence loses some of its grip when existence itself is understood as branching rather than linear. The self becomes something resilient, flowing across multiple universes, incapable of total erasure. Purpose also takes on new depth. If dreams reveal that we are more than confined observers in one reality, then meaning cannot be reduced to survival or material accumulation. Instead, purpose may be found in the act of awareness, cultivating the ability to recognize the vastness of being and to live consciously within it. Practices like lucid dreaming, meditation, or even the careful study of one's dream narratives become ways of engaging with this wider field of reality. Purpose becomes less about reaching an endpoint and more about exploring the richness of possibility. On a cultural level, the implications are just as striking. Human history has long been divided between rational traditions that prioritize measurable reality and spiritual traditions that point to unseen realms. A unified understanding of dreams as quantum experiences could dissolve that divide, offering a framework that respects empirical science While acknowledging the validity of transcendent insights, it would reframe spirituality not as superstition, but as an intuitive grasp of truths that physics is only now beginning to articulate. Philosophically, this vision challenges the very concept of individuality. If you exist in many worlds simultaneously, then your identity is not a fixed unit, but a spectrum. The dream self that runs through unknown landscapes or speaks languages never learned is not a fantasy. It is another iteration of you. The challenge is to embrace this multiplicity without losing the coherence that makes life meaningful. Individuality, then, becomes less about isolation and more about continuity, the thread that ties countless versions of self into a recognizable whole. The universe itself also gains a new character under this framework. Instead of being a vast but singular stage, it becomes a living web of interwoven realities. Each decision, each possibility, exists not only in theory but in actualized worlds. Dreams are not accidents within this web but portals, points of contact where consciousness glimpses the larger design. Humanity's role is not passive but participatory. We are explorers not only of space and matter, but of reality itself. With dreaming as one of our oldest and most accessible tools, such a shift carries responsibility. If every thought, every dream, every choice echoes across parallel realities, then our actions possess a weight greater than we often admit. Ethical questions acquire new dimensions when the self is recognized as part of an interconnected multiverse. Compassion, curiosity, and respect for existence become more than moral ideals. They become practical necessities for navigating a cosmos where boundaries blur, and every night offers a reminder of how expansive life truly is. For humanity as a whole, the realization that dreams may link us to parallel realities could spark a renaissance of imagination. Scientific research might pursue dream states with renewed seriousness, treating them not as distractions but as data. Art and literature could gain fresh inspiration, drawing from the recognition that every human carries within them entire universes waiting to be expressed. Education might shift to include not only waking knowledge, but dream exploration, teaching individuals how to recognize the insights hidden within nightly journeys. Most importantly, such a perspective restores wonder to existence. In an age where technology and routine often dull our sense of mystery, the idea that each night we step beyond our own world reignites awe. Life ceases to feel like a closed system and becomes instead a continuous exploration. To sleep is not to retreat, but to voyage, to encounter the infinite and return with fragments of it in memory. This does not provide final answers, nor does it eliminate uncertainty, but perhaps that is the point. If dreams connect us to the quantum fabric of reality, then uncertainty is not a flaw, but a feature, the very condition that allows possibility to exist. Humanity's role is not to master every mystery, but to live within them, to let the questions themselves deepen our sense of purpose. In closing, if dreams truly allow us to cross into parallel realities, then humanity is far more extraordinary than it has ever dared to believe. We are not confined beings locked into a single timeline. We are travelers of existence, explorers of realities, participants in a cosmic design that unfolds endlessly. Life becomes larger, death becomes gentler, purpose becomes richer, and the universe itself becomes more intimate. The night no longer belongs to shadows and silence. It belongs to possibility, and in that possibility lies the truest vision of what it means to be human.